Good day. My name is Robert Mitchell and I stand with Salman Rushdie. Today I'll be reading an excerpt from his novel, The Enchantress of Florence. Chapter 7. In the dark of the dungeon, his chains. In the dark of the dungeon, his chains weighed on him like his unfinished story. There were so many chains winding around him that he could imagine in the darkness that he had somehow been encased inside a larger body, the body of a man of iron. Movement was impossible. Light was a fantasy. The dungeon had been carved out of the living rock of the hill beneath the imperial palaces. The air in his cell was 1,000 years old. And so perhaps were the creatures crawling over his feet, and through his hair and into his groin. The albino roaches, the blind snakes, the transparent rats, the phantom scorpions, the lice. He would die without telling his story. He found this thought intolerable, and so it refused to leave him. It crawled in and out of his ears, and slid into the corners of his eyes, and stuck to the roof of his mouth, and to the soft tissue under his tongue. All men needed to hear their stories told. He was a man, but if he had died without telling his story, he would be something less than that, an albino cockroach, a louse. The dungeon did not understand the idea of a story. The dungeon was static, eternal, black. And a story needed motion in time and light. He felt the story slipping away from him, becoming inconsequential, ceasing to be. He had no story. There was no story. He was not a man. There was no man here. There was only the dungeon in the slithering dark. When they came to get him, he did not know if a day had passed or a century. He could not see the rough hands that loosened his chains. For a time, his hearing too was affected, and his powers of speech. They blindfolded him and took him naked to another place where he was scoured and scrubbed, as if he was a corpse being readied for burial. He thought, a dumb corpse who could not tell his tale. There was no coffins in this unchristian land. He would be sewn into a shroud and flung without a name into a hole in the ground. That, or burned. He would not rest in peace. In death, as in life, he would be full of unspoken words, and they would be his hell, tormenting him through all eternity. He heard a sound. There was once. It was his own voice. There was once a prince. He felt his heart begin to beat again, his blood to flow. His tongue was thick, but it could move. His heart boomed like a cannon in his chest. Who possessed enchanted weapons? He had a body again, and words. They removed the blindfold. 4 terrifying giants and a woman. He was in another cell, but in this place there was a candle burning and a guard in the corner, the most beautiful woman. The story was saving his life. Save your strength, the guard said. Tomorrow you stand trial for murder. There was a question he was trying to ask. The words would not form. The guard took pity on him and answered it anyway. I don't know the name of the man who accuses you, he said, but he is a godless foreigner like yourself, and he lacks an eye and half a leg. By the time the newly renamed Niccolo Vespucci was brought to the emperor's rooms, wearing his own clothes, and with a leather coat of many colors slung rakishly across his shoulders like a cape, he was entirely restored to himself and grinning mischievously like a magician who had pulled off an impossible trick, such as making a palace disappear, or walking through a wall of flames unharmed, or making a mad elephant fall in love. Birbal and the emperor were struck by his cockiness. How did you do it? The emperor asked him. Why didn't Heron kill you? Vespucci grinned more widely still. Sire, it was love at first sight, he said. Your elephant has served your majesty well, and no doubt he got from me so recently your friend and companion a whiff of familiar perfume. Is this what we all do? The emperor asked himself. This habit, the charming lie, the constant embellishment of reality, the promade applied to the truth. Is this roguishness of the man of 3 names no more than our own folly writ large? Is the truth too poor a thing for us? Is any man innocent of embellishing it at times, or even of abandoning it entirely? Am I no better than he? Vespucci, meanwhile, was thinking about trust. He who trusted nobody had trusted a woman, and she had saved him. Rescued by a skeleton, he thought. A tale of wonder indeed. He took his treasures from their hiding places, the gold regaining its weight as it left the magic overcoat, the jewels heavy in the palm of his hand, and gave them all to her. Thus I place myself in your power, he told her. If you rob me, I can do nothing about it. You don't understand, she answered. You have gained a greater power over me than I can overthrow. And in fact, he did not immediately understand, and she did not know how to say the word love or how to explain the emotion's unexpected birth. So it was a mystery that saved him from being proven a thief. And when he was being prepared for the elephant and his hands untied, and he was left to pray for a moment that he could be in his own maker's good graces when he met him, he realized that she had foreseen the possibility as well, and now drew out of the hiding place where no searcher cares to look, the tiny vial of perfume that perfectly synthesized the emperor's own odor and fooled the blind old elephant and saved his life. The emperor was speaking. The time he had hoped for had come. Look here, fellow, whatever your name is, Akbar said. This hinting and nudging must stop, and your story must at last be told. Out with it quick, before we lose our good mood. When Hiram the elephant had placed the foreigner on his back as if he were a prince, the rider had suddenly understood how he had to begin. A man who always tells his story in the same words is exposed as a liar who has rehearsed his lie too well. He thought. It was important to begin in a different place. Your Majesty, he said, King of Kings, shelter of the world, I have the honor to inform you that The words died on his lips, and he stood before the king like a man struck dumb by the gods. Akbar was irritated. Don't stop there, man, he said. Once and for all, spit the damn thing out. The foreigner coughed and began again. That I, my lord, am none other than... What? My lord, I find I cannot say it. But you must. Very well, though I fear your response. Nevertheless. Then, my lord, know now that I am in fact... Yes? A deep breath, then the plunge. Your relative by blood, in point of fact, your uncle.